What's going on, everyone? Tonight, we are diving into the fascinating world of the astronomical Shiva hypothesis. You might be thinking, what do Hindu deities and cosmic phenomena have in common? Well, strap in, because you're in for a ride that's going to put the star in star-crossed lovers, and maybe even throw in a couple of planetary mishaps for good measure. Yet, contrary to the grand storytelling of epic films and mythology books, the reality of how ancient cultures viewed the cosmos is far more complex and, dare I say, a bit absurd. Imagine our ancestors standing under a sky filled with twinkling stars, scratching their heads and wondering why Saturn felt the need to play peekaboo. Instead of merely gazing in awe, they crafted intricate narratives tying celestial bodies to the behavior of deities like Shiva. So, while Bollywood might depict Shiva in a gloriously stylized dance, the reality was that people were using the night sky to make sense of everything from agriculture to existential crises. Because nothing says "I'm lost in life" like looking at the Milky Way and realizing you've got to plant your crops by the lunar phases. But first, if you're enjoying these deep dives into history's more curious truths, hit that like button and consider subscribing. Drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from and what drew you to this mind-bending topic. Seriously, I love hearing from all of you. Your insights are what keep this cosmic conversation alive. All right, get settled in. Maybe grab a drink, something strong if you can, because we're about to explore what life was truly like during the unfolding story of the astronomical Shiva hypothesis. Now, let's clear up some misconceptions right off the bat. The astronomical Shiva hypothesis might sound like something cooked up in a science lab with too many cups of chai, but it's actually a fascinating intersection of mythology and astronomy. It's based on the idea that ancient Hindu texts, particularly the Vedas and Puranas, might hold clues about celestial events that happened thousands of years ago. Events that, let's be honest, would have made for a pretty wild night out. Now, you may have heard that these texts describe Shiva as a cosmic being, or even the destroyer in the Hindu pantheon. Sounds intense, right? But in reality, this destruction was more about cyclical renewal, a cosmic reset button of sorts. So, when you're watching a movie where Shiva is casting fireballs at enemies, remember that it's also a metaphor for the ebb and flow of the universe. Kind of makes you rethink those late-night snacks you regret the next morning, doesn't it? Digging deeper into the astronomical Shiva hypothesis, we start to notice that ancient civilizations, like the Hindus, had a remarkably sophisticated understanding of the cosmos. They tracked celestial movements with a precision that modern people might find surprising. Isn't it ironic that while we binge-watch reality shows, they were calculating the positions of stars and planets without any fancy equipment? Talk about having too much time on your hands, or the world's best night shift. One particularly intriguing aspect of this hypothesis is how it relates to the zodiac and planetary alignments that were believed to govern human affairs. You see, the Hindus had their own version of astrology that was deeply intertwined with their rituals and daily life. They didn't just look at the stars for fun. That would be like us scrolling through TikTok for life advice. No, they used their observations to inform everything from farming schedules to marriage ceremonies. Imagine your wedding being dictated by the position of Venus. Now that's a pressure cooker of expectation, isn't it? Now let's talk about some of these fascinating celestial events that might have been recorded in ancient texts. For instance, The hypothesis suggests that the great conjunctions of planets, where multiple planets align in the sky, were seen as divine omens. One could argue that back then, a cosmic alignment was essentially the ancient version of a trending hashtag. If you spotted Venus and Jupiter having a chat in the night sky, you better believe it was the talk of the town. Did you see that? Must mean something important. And honestly, who wouldn't want their life decisions validated by a celestial event? But herein lies the irony. These events, while grand in significance, also led to much confusion. Just as we often misinterpret memes and viral content today, ancient people sometimes got their celestial messages mixed up. One day, you're celebrating a planetary alignment, and the next, you're trying to figure out why the harvest has failed. Perhaps the stars were aligned in your favor, but the local weather had other ideas. It's almost laughable how even celestial guidance couldn't prevent us from the whims of nature. A bit like ordering food delivery, only to find they forgot your fries. Cosmic intervention, anyone? Now, while we're on the subject of misunderstandings, let's talk about cultural practices that might seem odd by today's standards. The ancient Hindu practice of creating elaborate rituals to appease celestial beings was not just a quirky habit, it was a necessity. People believed that the alignment of planets could influence everything, including their luck in love and prosperity. If your crops were failing, perhaps it was because Mercury was in retrograde. And who hasn't felt that cosmic pull, right? You can almost picture a farmer looking up at the sky, shaking his fist at Saturn, while muttering, "Why can't you just get your act together?" It's also interesting to note that while many civilizations worshipped the sun and moon, the Hindus particularly revered their deities as manifestations of cosmic forces. For them, the universe wasn't simply an empty void. It was alive, breathing, and teeming with divine intelligence. So, when they spoke of Shiva as the destroyer, it wasn't just a title. It was a recognition of the natural order. Destruction leads to creation, and creation leads to the cycle of life. It's like the universe's way of saying, "Hey, don't get too comfortable. Change is always coming," much like an unexpected family reunion. Now, let's pivot a bit to some fascinating historical and scientific facts. Did you know that the ancient Indian mathematicians were pioneers in astronomy? They developed calculations that were astoundingly accurate for their time. The Siddhanta texts, which date back to the 4th century, proposed theories about the motion of planets and even hinted at the concept of a heliocentric universe. That's right, long before Copernicus was even a twinkle in his father's eye, Indian astronomers were already thinking beyond the Earth-centric view. It's almost as if they had a cosmic pep talk that the rest of the world missed out on. Now, common misconceptions abound when it comes to the astronomical Shiva hypothesis. One popular myth is that these ancient texts are just fanciful stories with no basis in reality. But the truth is that they contain rich astronomical knowledge that was likely observed over generations. Imagine a time when your great-great-great-grandparents were watching the stars and jotting down notes. What an ancestor's project that would be. Moreover, the idea that the astronomical Shiva hypothesis is purely religious is another misconception. The relationship between mythology and astronomy was not just about worship, it was about understanding the world around them. These stories were intertwined with practical knowledge, providing guidelines on when to plant, harvest, or perform sacred rituals. Who knew that the key to a good corn crop might lie in a celestial narrative? In our modern context, it's easy to dismiss these ancient beliefs as mere superstition, but they were a way for people to connect with the profound mysteries of life. Think about it. A distant star shining millions of light years away became a guiding light in their everyday struggles. That's something we can still relate to. Even in our high-tech world, it's just a bit more difficult to find the right Wi-Fi signal when you're trying to commune with the cosmos. No cosmic alignment can help you there. As we wind down this first part of our journey into the Astronomical Shiva Hypothesis, let's take a moment to reflect on how these ancient beliefs shaped the cultures of their time. They found meaning in the stars, connecting their lives to a universe that felt big yet intimate. The cosmic dance of planetary movements wasn't just an astronomical phenomenon. It was a vital part of their existence. And let's not forget, while our modern lives might seem grounded in science and technology, the human tendency to look to the sky for answers hasn't changed. We've merely traded in celestial deities for data analytics and algorithms, but the underlying quest for understanding remains. So, as we close this chapter and prepare to explore more about the Astronomical Shiva Hypothesis in the next part, remember that the history of humanity is not only a tale of achievements, but also a comedic journey filled with ironies, misunderstandings, and the ever-present search for meaning. Stay tuned for more cosmic revelations. And who knows, maybe by the end of this series, we'll discover that the truth is even stranger and funnier than fiction. What's going on, everyone? Tonight, we're diving into the fascinating and often misunderstood world of astronomical mythology, specifically the enigmatic figure of Shiva and the hypothesis surrounding his celestial connections. Now, let me just hit you with a reality check. While many folks might think of Shiva as just a charming Hindu deity with a penchant for destruction and dance moves that would put any TikTok star to shame, the truth is much more complex and layered than the movies and books led you to believe. We're exploring what the experience of worshipping and understanding Shiva really entailed for people in different epochs. Strip away the romanticized versions often depicted in art and literature, and what you find is a figure who embodies both the chaos and creativity of the universe. The reality was far more intricate and challenging than most people realize. Kind of like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube while blindfolded. But first, if you're enjoying these deep dives into history's darker or just plain quirkier truths, hit that like button and consider subscribing. Drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from and what drew you to this topic. I love hearing from you all. Alright, get settled in, maybe grab a drink, and let's uncover what life was truly like back then. The many faces of Shiva. Shiva's characteristics are so multifaceted that he could easily star in his own soap opera. Let's call it As the Universe Turns. He is known as the Destroyer, the Meditator, the Lord of Dance, and the Cosmic Yogi, just to name a few. Each of these roles adds a layer to our understanding of him, but it also raises some eyebrow-raising questions. Did ancient people really think destruction was just as essential as creation? Spoiler alert, they did. Think about it. In a world where natural disasters could wipe out entire towns with the same flair as a magician pulling a rabbit out of a hat, embracing destruction as part of the cycle of life was not just a philosophical stance, it was a survival strategy. Cultures often look for ways to rationalize the unpredictable, and Shiva personified that unpredictability in a way that many could relate to. Chapter 7: Cosmic Dance and Cultural Practices. Now let's talk about that cosmic dance of his, Tandava. While you might envision a graceful ballet, it's more like the chaotic shuffle of your uncle at a wedding after too many drinks. Tandava is not just a dance, it's a metaphor for the cyclical nature of creation and destruction in the universe. Can you imagine trying to explain the importance of this cosmic jig to someone who only knows the Macarena? Cultural practices around Shiva often involved elaborate rituals and festivals. Take Mahashivaratri, for instance. Devotees stay awake all night, chanting and singing praises to Shiva, often while performing rituals that look a lot like the world's longest meditation session. The irony? Many of those who partake might also spend the day before binge-watching their favorite series on Netflix. So you can see the challenge. Staying awake all night for spiritual enlightenment while secretly battling the urge to nap can lead to some hilarious and honestly relatable moments. In terms of social aspects, festivals like Shivaratri brought communities together. Imagine a giant cosmic potluck where everyone brings their best offerings: food, flowers, and prayers. It was a time when social hierarchies melted away, and even the grumpiest of neighbors might share in the festivities. Chapter 7: Astronomical Connections Surrounding Shiva. Some researchers have hypothesized that ancient texts and depictions of Shiva might contain knowledge of celestial events, suggesting that this deity was more than just a myth. He could have represented real astronomical phenomena known to ancient cultures. But here's where the absurdity kicks in. Could it be that our ancestors were more in tune with the cosmos than we give them credit for? Here's a fun fact for you. The Hindu calendar is lunisolar, meaning it takes into account both the moon and the sun, unlike most of our modern calendars, which largely ignore the lunar cycles. This reflects an understanding of the universe that intertwined religious practice with an awareness of celestial bodies. Imagine trying to explain to someone in today's world that they should plan their weekends around the moon phases. Sorry, can't meet up on Saturday. That's a full moon. And I've got a date with some serious celestial energy. Human nature through the ages. Speaking of human nature, let's talk about how it's remained surprisingly consistent over time. Ancient worshippers of Shiva engaged in rituals to seek blessings, protection, and prosperity. Much like people today might light a candle or make a wish upon a shooting star. The motivations behind these actions, hoping for a little divine intervention in our day-to-day lives, haven't changed much, have they? You can imagine the ancient folks huddled around their fires, finding comfort in the belief that a deity was watching over them, and if they just performed the right chant or ritual, perhaps they wouldn't have to face the chaos of life alone. And let's be real, who hasn't whispered a little prayer when they see a black cat cross their path? Ironies, absurdities, and the dance of life. Now, let's explore some of the ironies tied to Shiva and the myths surrounding him. One of the most notable contradictions is the notion of Shiva as both a creator and destroyer. In a world where we often view creation and destruction as opposites, ancient wisdom embraced them as two sides of the same cosmic coin. It's like trying to enjoy a good sandwich while simultaneously being afraid of the bread. Both can be essential, but take away one, and you're left with a sad plate of nothing. Take a moment to consider the absurdity of this duality. In our modern context, we often view ourselves as creators, whether it's crafting content, launching startups, or even just making dinner. But how often do we think about what we must let go of to make space for something new? Shiva challenges us to confront that reality head on, reminding us that sometimes you have to break a few eggs to make an omelette. And yes, I mean that both literally and metaphorically. The irony extends even further when you realize that many cultures experience cycles of creation and destruction. Whether through natural disasters, wars, or social upheavals, history has shown us time and again that humanity is incredibly resilient, always bouncing back, often stronger than before. Perhaps Shiva's dance is a metaphor for that resilience, a reminder that after every storm, there is calm, and after every destruction, there is the potential for rebirth. Connections between past and present. As we unravel these connections, it's intriguing to think about how our understanding of celestial phenomena has evolved. The ancient peoples who worshipped deities like Shiva weren't just trying to appease the gods. They were also keen observers of the sky. They tracked the movements of stars and planets. And their myths were often rich with meanings that related directly to their lives on Earth. These days, we have telescopes and sophisticated technology, but there are still aspects of human experience that echo those ancient practices. How many of us still gaze at the stars and feel that sense of wonder, hoping for clarity or answers to our biggest questions? Whether it's through astrology, astronomy, or simply stargazing, our fascination with the cosmos remains a link that binds us to those who came before us. The absurdity of scientific misconceptions. Now, diving back into the realm of science, let's address some misconceptions that continue to persist regarding celestial phenomena and their ties to mythology. One common myth involves the belief that ancient cultures were primitive and lacked any real scientific understanding. Honestly, this assumption is as outdated as flip phones in a world of smartphones. Consider this. Many ancient civilizations had remarkable knowledge of astronomy. The Babylonians could predict eclipses. The Maya had complex calendars based on astronomical observations, and the ancient Indians utilized the stars for navigation and agriculture. Yet, when we think about these societies, we often picture cave dwellers peering at the sky in confusion, when in fact, they were observing a symphony of celestial events and embedding that knowledge in their cultures. Final thoughts for now. So here we are, navigating the cosmic dance of Shiva, with all its absurdities, cultural significance, and human connections. Just like a good dance-off at a family reunion, the mix of energy, chaos, and tradition create something uniquely beautiful. As we continue this exploration into the relationship between mythology and the cosmos, we'll uncover even more fascinating layers. The stories of gods and celestial phenomena have shaped human understanding in ways we're only beginning to grasp. Whether it's through rituals, science, or simply the shared experience of looking up at the stars, the connection remains, one that transcends time, culture, and even the occasional awkward dance move. But before we wrap up for now, let me leave you with this thought. The next time you find yourself feeling overwhelmed by life's chaos, remember that even in destruction, there is the potential for creation. And who knows, you might just find your inner Shiva, maybe not in a full cosmic dance, but perhaps in a joyful little shimmy as you embrace life's absurdities. Stay tuned for the next part of our adventure, where we'll delve deeper into the myths, truths, and unexpected connections that continue to shape our understanding of history and the universe. Until then, keep asking questions, keep exploring, and above all, keep dancing, preferably with a little less chaos than Shiva, though. What's going on, everyone? Tonight, we're diving into the fascinating world of the astronomical Shiva hypothesis. You might be wondering, what on earth does a Hindu deity have to do with astronomy? Well, hold on to your hats, because this is going to get cosmic. And here's a reality check. While many people think of ancient civilizations as primitive, they were often far more advanced in their understanding of the universe than we give them credit for. We're exploring how the stories of gods like Shiva intertwine with celestial phenomena, revealing a reality that's far more complex and challenging than just colorful myths. But first, if you're enjoying these deep dives into history's darker truths, hit that like button and consider subscribing. Drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from and what drew you to this topic. I love hearing from you all. Alright, get settled in, maybe grab a drink, and let's uncover what life was truly like back then. The cosmic dance of Shiva. So, let's kick things off with Shiva. Now, on the surface, he might just seem like another deity with cool blue skin, a trident and a penchant for meditation. But delve a bit deeper, and you'll discover that he represents the cosmic cycles of creation and destruction, an embodiment of the universe itself. This is where the astronomical Shiva hypothesis comes into play, suggesting that ancient texts and iconography linked Shiva to astronomical events. Imagine ancient people gazing at the night sky, pondering the stars. Now imagine them doing this while trying to avoid being trampled by a herd of cows. Because that was a real risk back in the day. The irony? These same folks were also figuring out the cycles of the moon and the movements of planets without the aid of a telescope or Google Sky Map. They observed these celestial bodies and wove them into their mythology, with Shiva often linked to the cosmic dance of creation, known as Tandava, which symbolizes the rhythm of the universe. The misconception of primitive minds. Now, here's where we get into the meat of the misconceptions. Many modern thinkers dismiss ancient civilizations as primitive because they didn't have our level of technology. But let's take a moment to chuckle at that notion. Did they have smartphones? No. Did they have advanced mathematics that charted celestial events? Absolutely. They were keen observers trying to make sense of the chaotic world around them. It's like calling someone primitive because they can't figure out your Wi-Fi password, while they're simultaneously translating the night sky into art and myth. For instance, the ancient Indians developed a lunar calendar that was surprisingly accurate. They noticed that the phases of the moon correlated with various agricultural cycles, which is essential if you want to eat regularly and avoid starving. Common human concern for millennia. This connection between agriculture, astronomy, and spirituality is beautifully illustrated through the stories of gods like Shiva, who represented the cyclical nature of life and death, sowing and reaping, in a universe that's perpetually in motion. Absurdities of the past. Speaking of motion, let's talk about the absurdity of ancient rituals that still carry echoes of astronomical significance. Many Hindu ceremonies involve intricate rituals that align with celestial events, ostensibly to appease deities. Ever tried to hold a ceremony at 3 a.m. under a new moon? It's not exactly a recipe for a peaceful night's sleep. But for ancient peoples, aligning their rituals with celestial events was crucial for ensuring good fortune, favorable weather, and abundant harvests. Essentially the ancient version of asking the universe for a solid Yelp review. Think about it. You're trying to convince the sun not to scorch your crops, and you're doing so with elaborate dances and offerings. Meanwhile, you're competing with that guy down the street who's also trying to get a little support from the heavens. It's like an ancient version of social media where everyone is trying to get the most likes from the gods. Cosmic connections. Now, let's draw some connections between ancient practices and modern science. You might be surprised to know that the very idea of celestial cycles influencing life on Earth isn't just a relic of the past, it's backed by science today. For instance, the gravitational pull of the moon influences the tides, and some studies suggest that lunar phases may affect human behavior. Weird, right? One can only imagine the ancient folks smugly nodding at their modern counterparts. We told you so. In fact, the ancient Hindu festival of Mahashivaratri, dedicated to Shiva, occurs on a moonless night. It's not just a random choice. It aligns with astronomical phenomena related to the position of the stars and planets. You could argue that ancient civilizations were among the first to practice astronomy, even if they did it while chanting hymns and wearing elaborate costumes. I mean, let's face it, if you're going to gaze at the stars, why not do it in style? Human nature through the ages. Now let's pivot our gaze back to human nature itself. One of the most fascinating aspects about myths, like those surrounding Shiva, is how they reflect our universal human experiences: love, loss, creation, and destruction. Whether you lived thousands of years ago or today, everyone experiences these fundamental emotions. The narratives surrounding Shiva's cosmic dance can be seen as a metaphor for the chaos and order we all navigate in life. And just like today, people were finding ways to cope with the uncertainty of existence. Consider how we often romanticize the past. We like to think of ancient peoples as living in harmony with nature, communing with the divine while avoiding existential crises. But let's not kid ourselves. There were undoubtedly days when everyone was just trying to figure out where their next meal was coming from. The reality of ancient life was often messy and complicated, and the same goes for our modern lives. Yes, the irony of spirituality meets science. Here's where the irony kicks in. We often think that spirituality and science are at odds. However, the stories of Shiva demonstrate that ancient spirituality was deeply rooted in observations of the natural world. Astronomical events were not just markers of time, but were imbued with meaning and significance. The cosmos wasn't just something to be studied. It was a living, breathing entity filled with divine influence. In other words, ancient people weren't just stargazing. They were literally trying to make sense of the universe's larger story, much like modern astronomers today. Consider how the Big Bang Theory, which posits that the universe began as a singularity before rapidly expanding, shares a thematic similarity with the Hindu concept of creation. Both concepts grapple with the idea of an initial state, whether it's a cosmic explosion or a divine act. It's almost as if ancient civilizations had a head start in contemplating the universe's mysteries. The dance continues. As we explore the overlapping realms of mythology and astronomy, it's worth noting that the scientific community is still uncovering celestial phenomena that can change our understanding of the universe. For instance, astrophysicists have discovered exoplanets that exist in the habitable zones of their stars, teeming with possibilities for life. It's fascinating to think that while ancient peoples were crafting stories about gods and creation, we're still on a quest to find our place in the cosmos. And speaking of quests, let's bring it back to Shiva for a moment. The symbolism of Shiva's dance isn't just about the cosmic cycles of life and death. It also speaks to the idea of resilience and adaptability. In the face of chaos, humanity finds ways to dance, whether literally or metaphorically. It's a reminder that even in tumultuous times, we can find our rhythm and navigate through life's uncertainties. A cosmic humor. And here comes a little cosmic humor for you. Imagine if ancient people had access to modern social media. Just finished my morning tandava, perfect way to shake off that existential dread. Or got caught in a black hole today, literally. Hashtag Shiva vibes. It's amusing to think about how these ancient narratives could fit into our contemporary landscape, where we grapple with the universe's mysteries while documenting our coffee breaks. So next time you're gazing up at the stars, take a moment to appreciate the connection between ancient mythology and modern science. The universe is full of mysteries waiting to be unraveled, and everyone, from ancient observers to today's astrophysicists, has been trying to decode the cosmic choreography. The lasting legacy of the astronomical Shiva hypothesis. Before we wrap up this segment, let's reflect on the legacy of the astronomical Shiva hypothesis. It's a beautiful tapestry woven from threads of spirituality, science, and human experience. The stories of gods like Shiva remind us of our innate curiosity and our desire to make sense of the world around us. They are reminders that while we may have advanced technologically, our fundamental questions about existence remain unchanged. As we continue to explore the interplay between myth and science, we highlight the absurdities of our own lives, the connections that bind us through time, and the laughter we can find in our attempts to understand the universe. The journey is as important as the destination, and each story, each astronomical event, is a step along the way. So my fellow cosmic travelers, let's keep this journey rolling. In the next part of our exploration, we'll delve even deeper into the cultural practices surrounding Shiva and how they echo through time. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. Until then, keep questioning, keep exploring, and remember, the universe is a wild ride, and we're all just trying to find our place in it. Stay tuned, and let's continue this cosmic adventure together. What's going on, everyone? Tonight, we're diving into the intriguing world of the astronomical Shiva hypothesis. If you've ever looked at the cosmic dance of planets and stars, you might think ancient cultures were just sitting around, dreaming up wild stories about the universe. But let's face it, the reality is far more fascinating and often downright bizarre. While we might think of myths as simple tales of gods and monsters, the truth is that they often held deep astronomical knowledge, and the ancient people who crafted them were anything but ignorant. Strip away the idea that our ancestors were just superstitious or naive, and what you find is a civilization that was deeply engaged with the cosmos. The reality was far more complex and challenging than most people realize, and the intersection of science, mythology, and culture provides us with heaps of absurdity and humor. Kind of like watching a sitcom where the characters can't decide if they're in a drama or a slapstick comedy. But first, if you're enjoying these deep dives into history's darker truths, hit that like button and consider subscribing. Drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from and what drew you to this topic. I love hearing from you all. All right, get settled in, maybe grab a drink, and let's uncover what life was truly like back then. Astronomical insights and mythological depth. The Astronomical Shiva Hypothesis posits that the Hindu god Shiva, often depicted as the cosmic dancer, embodies not just the spirit of creation and destruction, but also the celestial mechanics of the universe. Think of Shiva as the universe's DJ, spinning records of cosmic rhythm and chaos, while the planets and stars move to the beat. It's a striking image, and it's all based on ancient understandings of astronomical phenomena. Now, let's consider the cultural practices surrounding this mythology. In many Hindu traditions, festivals revolve around the lunar and solar cycles. There's a certain irony in the fact that while we modern humans obsess over our calendars, our ancient counterparts were already masters of timekeeping. They built temples aligned with solar events, tracking the movements of celestial bodies with precision that would make even the most dedicated stargazer raise an eyebrow. You see, while we tend to think of science and religion as separate realms, almost like they're on opposing teams in a cosmic tug-of-war, ancient cultures often blended the two. The celestial bodies were not merely objects in the sky. They were alive, breathing entities participating in a divine narrative. So, when Shiva performs his cosmic dance, it's not just for show. It's an intricate choreography that reflects the very fabric of the universe. The cosmic dance and human nature. Now, let's step back for a moment and consider human nature across the ages. Whether you were living in ancient India, Mesopotamia, or the far corners of the earth, one thing remains consistent. Humans love storytelling. From cave drawings of hunting scenes to elaborate epics composed by bards, the human urge to weave narratives is as universal as our desire for food and shelter. But here's the kicker. Our ancestors were not just spinning tales to entertain. These stories served as the foundation for understanding the world around them. In the case of Shiva, the narrative explains everything from the cycles of life and death to the very motion of celestial bodies. And like many ancient myths, it mirrors the absurdities of human existence. After all, who among us hasn't felt a bit like Shiva on a bad day, caught in a whirlwind of chaos and creation? Take, for instance, the concept of time in Hindu mythology. The cyclical nature of time, embodied in the dance of Shiva, reflects a profound understanding of human existence. We live, we die, we're reborn, much like the stars that explode and reform in the cosmos. There's a dark humor in the way humans grapple with mortality. We're all just trying to figure out how to dance through the chaos without stepping on our own toes. Misconceptions and cosmic revelations. Now, let's tackle some misconceptions that often cloud our understanding of ancient cultures. For instance, many people believe that ancient civilizations were incapable of advanced scientific thought. This couldn't be further from the truth. Take the ancient Greeks, who, with their love for philosophy and science, laid the groundwork for many principles we still utilize today. But even they had their quirks, like believing in a flat earth, which, let's be honest, is a bit of a cosmic oversight. Similarly, one might assume that Hindu cosmology is merely a set of whimsical stories, but it's so much richer than that. Ancient texts like the Vedas and Puranas contain intricate astronomical calculations and theories that, astonishingly, align with modern understandings of the universe. For instance, they identified the concept of infinity long before it became a hot topic in mathematics. So while we might chuckle at the idea of gods fighting over the universe, we should also take a moment to appreciate the wisdom buried in those tales. Speaking of buried wisdom, did you know that ancient cultures often viewed comets as omens? In fact, they were the original breaking news alerts. Imagine a villager standing in awe, pointing at the sky, shouting, "Look, there's calamity afoot." Spoiler alert, it was just a comet, but to them it was a sign, perhaps a warning from the gods, that they should lay off the sacrificial animals for a while. Shash, cultural practices that are a bit out there. Transitioning from the cosmos to the earthly realm, let's explore some odd cultural practices linked to these astronomical beliefs. Ancient Indian society had a plethora of rituals and festivals tied to celestial events. One interesting practice was the celebration of Mahashivaratri, the great night of Shiva. People would fast, chant prayers, and stay awake all night, which sounds suspiciously like a college all-nighter, but with more incense and a lot less pizza. The irony here is that the festival celebrates the night Shiva danced the cosmic dance, representing the union of consciousness and matter. Meanwhile, modern-day humans struggle to stay awake during the latest binge-worthy series on Netflix. If only they could channel that cosmic energy every Friday night. Furthermore, many rituals involved complex mathematical calculations to determine the most auspicious times for ceremonies. It's almost as if our ancestors were the original event planners, painstakingly organizing celestial parties without Wi-Fi or Google Calendar. Yet, they managed to pull off some impressive spectacles. Shashash, human nature, the ever-present flaw. Now, let's not forget to poke a little fun at our human flaws, which have remained consistent throughout time. For example, the ancient Greeks were notorious for their obsession with omens, often going to ridiculous lengths to interpret them. Imagine a group of philosophers gathered around, intently debating the significance of a bird flying left instead of right. Someone probably stood up and declared, "It's clearly a sign of impending doom." Meanwhile, someone else was just waiting to see if lunch had arrived. And here's a fun twist. Many ancient cultures had a tendency to anthropomorphize everything, including natural disasters. When a volcano erupted, it was not merely geological activity. It was the angry god feeling a little too spicy for comfort. This tendency to ascribe human emotions to natural events is a reflection of our desire to find order in chaos. In our modern age, we still engage in similar behaviors, albeit with a bit less divine intervention. Think about the last time a rainstorm ruined your picnic. Did you curse the heavens? Maybe you even blame some unseen deity for your soggy sandwich. In truth, it was just weather, and yet we're still looking for an explanation beyond science. Shashash, connections across time. As we journey deeper into this historical tapestry, let's uncover some fascinating connections between the past and present. Take the concept of the universe being cyclical, for instance. This idea isn't just limited to Hindu philosophy. Many ancient cultures, including the Mayans and the Greeks, shared similar cosmological views. It almost seems as if ancient civilizations were attending the same cosmic symposium, swapping ideas and stories over celestial cocktails. Then there's the idea of zodiac signs and horoscopes, which many people still cling to today. Astrology has roots in various ancient cultures, including Babylonian, Greek, and Indian. It's a curious blend of astronomy and mythology, where the movements of celestial bodies are believed to influence human destiny. So next time you're scrolling your horoscope, just remember, you're riding a wave of ancient wisdom mixed with a dash of cosmic whimsy. Absurdities of ancient scientific practices. Let's not gloss over some of the more amusing aspects of ancient scientific practices. For instance, many cultures believed that the position of the stars could predict everything from harvest yields to romantic success. Imagine a farmer in ancient Mesopotamia gazing up at the night sky, pondering, "Will my crops thrive this season? Let's consult the stars." Meanwhile, the real answer might have been as simple as rotating his crops. In a similar vein, ancient Egyptians went through great lengths to align their pyramids with specific star constellations. This monumental task required an understanding of astronomy that would make modern architects blush. But let's be real here. While they were busy measuring angles and creating grand designs, they probably weren't thinking about the long-term sustainability of their architectural choices. These absurdities reveal a truth about human nature. We often prioritize symbolism over practicality. Whether it's building structures for the afterlife or relying on the stars for life choices, we seem to enjoy complicating things. The dance of science and culture. As we draw closer to understanding the intricate web woven between science and culture, it's worth noting how each informs the other. The astronomical Shiva hypothesis beautifully embodies this connection, showing that mythology was not merely fanciful storytelling, but a reflection of the universe's mysteries. The stories helped ancient people understand the cosmos, just as modern science strives to educate us today. In fact, many of the astronomical concepts laid out in ancient texts were not fully appreciated until centuries later. For example, the concept of infinity in mathematics was explored in Hindu philosophy, only to be rediscovered by mathematicians much later in history. It's almost as if humanity had a collective oops moment regarding our understanding of the universe. Final thoughts. So, as we wander through the cosmos of the astronomical Shiva hypothesis, we discover a tapestry rich with cultural practices, scientific insights, and a dash of absurd humor. Life in ancient times was a complex dance between the divine and the mundane, where storytelling served as a bridge to understanding the universe. In the end, we find ourselves laughing at the absurdities of both the past and our present. Whether it's the ancients interpreting omens from the flight of birds, or modern humans scrolling through the latest memes about cosmic chaos, there's something hilariously consistent about our attempts to make sense of a world that often seems utterly nonsensical. So, what can we take away from this journey? Perhaps it's a reminder that while we may be more advanced in our scientific understanding, the human condition remains remarkably unchanged. We continue to seek meaning in the vastness of the cosmos, eternally dancing to the rhythm of uncertainty and discovery. That's a wrap for today's exploration of the astronomical Shiva hypothesis. Stay tuned for more historical deep dives that blend the oddities of the past with the curiosities of the present. And remember, the next time you gaze up at the stars, you might just catch a glimpse of Shiva doing his thing, dancing through the cosmos, reminding us all that life is a dance of chaos and creation. What's going on, everyone? Tonight, we're diving into the astronomical Shiva hypothesis, a wild theory that suggests the Hindu god Shiva was not just a deity of destruction and regeneration, but perhaps a more cosmic figure than most might imagine. And let's be real for a second. When you think of ancient mythology, you probably picture a bunch of guys in togas lounging around debating fate. But the reality, it was more like an ancient version of a sci-fi convention gone wrong. We're exploring how ancient cultures understood the universe, and just how oddly intertwined their gods were with cosmic events. Strip away the romanticized version movies and books fed you. The reality was far more complex and challenging than most people realize. But first, if you're enjoying these deep dives into history's darker truths, hit that like button and consider subscribing. Drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from and what drew you to this topic. I love hearing from you all. Alright, get settled in, maybe grab a drink, and let's uncover what life was truly like back then. Now, let's take a moment to appreciate the sheer audacity of humanity's attempts to comprehend the cosmos. Imagine, if you will, ancient sages sitting around a fire, gazing up at the night sky, scratching their heads and thinking, you know what, that big shiny thing up there, I bet it's got something to do with that guy Shiva. In Hindu mythology, Shiva is often depicted as the destroyer within the holy trinity of gods known as the Trimurti, alongside Brahma, the creator, and Vishnu, the preserver. But what many folks might not realize is that Shiva is also, in a bizarre twist, linked to cosmic cycles and the universe itself. Picture a deity who's not just wielding a trident, but also has a hand in the cosmic dance of galaxies. Talk about multitasking. Now, let's navigate through some of the fascinating cultural practices surrounding Shiva that have some cosmic implications. Take, for instance, the symbolism of the Shiva Linga, a representation of Shiva that's not just a phallic symbol, though, let's face it, that's often how it's presented in pop culture. The linga isn't merely about manhood. Rather, it signifies the formlessness of Shiva, representing the union of the cosmic and the earthly. Basically, it's a reminder that existence is a whole lot messier than just black and white categorizations. Kind of like trying to categorize your feelings after watching a rom-com. And let's talk about the cosmic dance of Shiva, or Nataraja. This is where things get really interesting. Nataraja is not just some guy jamming out to a killer beat. He's effectively demonstrating how creation and destruction are deeply intertwined. In a way, this embodies a fundamental truth of human nature. We dance through life, sometimes creating beautiful moments, other times tearing them down, all while trying to find that sweet rhythm in the chaos. Who knew ancient deities were basically the original life coaches? Now, shifting gears to the scientific side of things, it's important to note that misconceptions about celestial bodies have persisted through the ages. For instance, in ancient times, many cultures believed the stars were set in stone, like cosmic stickers in the sky. Fast forward a few millennia, and here we are, understanding that stars are actually massive nuclear reactors, burning through their fuel at astonishing rates. Imagine the ancient astronomers' shock if they found out their beloved constellations were basically just cosmic pyrotechnics. The Astronomical Shiva Hypothesis posits that the stories and symbols associated with Shiva could correlate with astronomical events, like the cycles of the moon or the movements of planets. It's a tantalizing theory, suggesting that perhaps ancient people were not just spinning tales, but were also attempting to make sense of the universe around them. Imagine the conversations they had. Hey, you see that bright planet over there? What if that's actually Shiva winking at us? This brings us to a curious irony in human nature. Even in our attempts to grasp the cosmos, we often project our own experiences and issues onto larger-than-life figures. It's like how we sometimes look to celebrities for life advice. What would Beyoncé do? Becomes the guiding principle through our daily struggles. In the same vein, ancient peoples may have used their deities as cosmic justification for the inexplicable. As we meander through the labyrinth of history, we find ourselves at the crossroads of myths and reality. There's a delightful absurdity in how people have historically interpreted celestial phenomena. For example, when a comet blazed through the sky, it was seen as an omen, often interpreted as a message from the gods. Fast forward to today. If we see a shooting star, most of us simply wish for a pizza. Oh, how far we've come. Now, how does this all tie back to the human experience? Well, at the core of it, ancient cultures often reflected their own struggles, hopes, and dreams through their deities. When people looked at the night sky, they weren't just looking at stars, they were engaging in a cosmic conversation. This is where we see the common thread of human nature, our unending desire to find meaning and connection, whether that's with the universe or each other. Let's talk about cultural practices that seem odd by modern standards, but were deeply significant back in the day. In ancient India, during festivals like Maha Shivaratri, devotees would engage in rituals that included fasting, night vigils, and offerings to Shiva. Imagine that scene, hundreds of people, eyes glazed over as they chant and dance all night long, probably fueled by the collective hope that Shiva might just grant them a little cosmic favor. It's a bit like standing in line for concert tickets, only instead of a spot in the mosh pit, you're hoping for enlightenment. Now, lest we forget, there's also a pretty dark undertone to the mythological narratives surrounding these practices. For instance, rituals often required sacrifices. Some ancient cultures believed that appeasing the gods through offerings could avert disasters or calamities, a rather grim reflection of human fears. It's as if life in ancient times was essentially one gigantic game of cosmic will this work, which, let's be honest, sounds a lot like how decision-making often goes today. As we dig deeper into the astronomical implications surrounding the worship of Shiva, it becomes clear that humanity's relationship with the cosmos has not changed much over the centuries. Whether we're gazing up at a starry sky or scrolling through a smartphone app to track celestial events, the desire to find our place in the universe remains a constant. We still look to the heavens for answers, just with a bit more technology and a lot less incense. Now, here's an interesting twist. Many modern scientists believe that ancient people were far more advanced in their astronomical observations than we give them credit for. Misconceptions abound, suggesting that ancient civilizations merely stared at the stars without truly understanding them. Not so. They were likely tracking celestial movements, recording their findings, and using that knowledge to guide agricultural practices and societal activities. It's a bit ironic, isn't it? The very people we think of as mystical and superstitious were perhaps the original astronomers, hunting for patterns in the chaos of the universe, while we scroll through TikTok for signs of wisdom. And in a way, the absurdity doesn't stop there. As modern people, we often struggle with the same existential questions as our ancestors did. Who are we? Why are we here? Is that cheese we ate last night really worth the existential crisis we're having now? Whether through the lens of an ancient deity or a late-night infomercial promising a better life, the quest for meaning continues. As we examine more myths associated with Shiva, we cannot ignore the tales of destruction. They often highlight a fundamental truth about human nature. We can be our own worst enemies. Take the story of Shiva's cosmic dance again. When he performs Tandava, a dance of destruction. It signifies not just chaos, but also the potential for renewal. This duality resonates through time. It's a reflection of our own lives, where we tear things down only to build them back up, often learning valuable lessons in the process. And speaking of irony, consider how modern science is beginning to validate some ancient beliefs. Just like how ancient sages had their celestial theories, today's astrophysicists are finding that destruction and creation are inherent in the life cycle of stars. In a sense, a cosmic dance, very much like Shiva's. The universe undergoes continual cycles of birth, life, and death. Whether it's a sun exploding into a supernova, or a deity performing a celestial jig, the underlying principles remain surprisingly similar. Let's not forget about the cultural aspects that connect us through time. Rituals and celebrations around celestial events are not solely an ancient phenomenon. Just look at how we celebrate New Year's Eve with fireworks, or attend festivals dedicated to the changing seasons. We may not be shouting at the stars like ancient devotees, but we still engage with the cosmos in our own, often absurd ways. Human nature has not evolved to be so vastly different over the millennia. We still gather, we still celebrate, and we still seek meaning in the universe's vastness. That longing, it's as present today as it was when our ancestors first looked up at the stars and pondered the mysteries of existence. As we continue to explore the connections between the astronomical Shiva hypothesis and our human experience, we unveil layers of understanding about ourselves and our ancestors. The stories, the rituals, the seemingly absurd practices, they all serve as reflections of our desire to grasp something larger than ourselves. Perhaps even to dance alongside the gods. And while we may never wholly understand the cosmos, our attempts to do so, whether through ancient myths or modern sciences, tell us one thing. We're all in this cosmic ballet together, fumbling through the universe, occasionally stepping on toes, but hoping to create something beautiful in the end. So as we wrap up this segment, keep this thought in mind. Whether you're invoking the name of Shiva, analyzing the latest astronomical discoveries, or simply wondering what's for dinner, you're participating in a timeless human endeavor, a quest for knowledge, meaning, and maybe a little cosmic wisdom. And who knows, you might just find a hint of Shiva's cosmic dance in your own life, too. Stay tuned as we continue to unravel this cosmic tapestry of myths and realities, where ancient and modern blur together in the most unexpected ways. Until next time. What's going on, everyone? Tonight, we're diving into the fascinating depths of the astronomical Shiva hypothesis. Now, before you start picturing a cosmic dance-off between deities under a starry sky, let's hit the brakes for a second. Contrary to the popular perception that mythology is merely a collection of fanciful tales that arise from the minds of ancient poets or the pages of dusty old texts, the reality is far more intricate. The connection between Hindu mythology, especially figures like Shiva, and astronomical phenomena is a complex interplay of culture, science, and human interpretation that's been developing for centuries. But first, if you're enjoying these deep dives into history's darker truths, hit that like button and consider subscribing. Drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from and what drew you to this topic. I love hearing from you all. Alright, get settled in, maybe grab a drink, and let's uncover what life was truly like back then, and how it all ties into our understanding of the cosmos today. The cosmic dance of Shiva. To kick things off, let's talk about Shiva. In Hindu mythology, Shiva is often depicted as the Nataraja, or Lord of Dance, performing the Tandava, his cosmic dance that symbolizes creation, preservation, and destruction. You might think this is just a cool way to represent the cycles of life. But what if I told you that this dance could also be interpreted as a metaphor for astronomical phenomena? Now, I'm not saying Shiva was some ancient astronaut who moonlighted as an astrophysicist, but various interpretations suggest that many elements of his dance correlate with natural cycles, such as the movement of celestial bodies. It's a bit like your friend who insists that every time they hear a certain song, it brings them good luck. Except this friend has a bit more cosmic authority. This leads us to the Astronomical Shiva Hypothesis, which posits that many of the symbols and actions associated with Shiva can be correlated with celestial mechanics. For instance, the concept of time in Hindu philosophy is cyclical rather than linear, reflecting the repetitive orbits of planets and stars. So one could argue that ancient civilizations were more in tune with the cosmos than we often give them credit for. Think about it. How many of us can confidently name more than a couple of constellations beyond the Big Dipper? Myths versus reality, the celestial connection. Now, let's address some common misconceptions. Many people assume that the astronomical knowledge of ancient civilizations was rudimentary at best. However, Hindu scholars were mapping the stars and predicting celestial events long before the telescope was even a twinkle in Galileo's eye. They had a profound understanding of the movements of the planets, and they meticulously documented these observations in texts like the Surya Siddhanta, a foundational work in Indian mathematics and astronomy written around the 4th or 5th century CE. But wait, there's more. You might have heard of the zodiac signs and their astrological implications. You may even know your sun sign, but did you know that this system of zodiacal signs isn't just a gimmick for fortune-telling at your local coffee shop? The ancient Indian zodiac, or Rashi, shares striking similarities with the Western zodiac. Yet it comes from an entirely different cultural lens. It's like comparing a taco to a burrito. They share ingredients, but the experience is entirely different. Human nature, seeking patterns. Isn't it fascinating how human nature has consistently sought to find patterns and meaning in the universe? Our ancestors looked up at the stars and saw stories, gods, and divine mandates, while we today look for constellations of our own, whether it's in the night sky or in the data of our everyday lives. We want to make sense of our existence, whether through ancient rituals or through the latest scientific findings. Speaking of rituals, let's explore how cultural practices evolve over time. Ancient communities engaged in elaborate ceremonies to appease the gods, which often included astronomical elements. The timing of agricultural planting and harvesting was frequently aligned with celestial events. Think of it as the ancient version of setting a reminder on your phone. Hey, don't forget to plant the crops when the full moon is out. Modern science backs this up. The lunar cycles can indeed affect plant growth. Absurdities of the past. Now, let's sprinkle in some absurdities. Have you ever considered that the ancient Egyptians took their love for astronomy so seriously that they built entire pyramids aligned to stellar constellations? Meanwhile, some of our modern-day counterparts struggle to align their GPS devices. I mean, it's almost poetic in its irony. Those who could build monumental structures based on the stars lived much closer to the heavens, and we often do today. The ancient Egyptians had their own cosmic blueprint, while modern society sometimes struggles to find a good spot to park. As we explore these connections, it's amusing to think that while scientists are uncovering the vast complexities of the universe, people in the past were already intimately aware of cosmic cycles. They just had a different way of interpreting it. Like that one friend who insists they can see auras but can't tell you the time without looking at their phone. Cultural reflections. Let's transition into how these astronomical interpretations reflect broader cultural practices. Take the concept of chakras in Hindu philosophy, which are said to align with various cosmic energies. These energy centers can be seen as metaphors for balancing forces, much like how celestial bodies orbit and influence one another. It's as if they understood the push and pull of the universe long before we formalized it into physics. This brings us to another point: the enduring legacy of these beliefs in contemporary practices. Many yoga instructors today still reference these ancient concepts, blending spirituality with physical practice. It's a fascinating fusion of past and present. Like trying to explain to your grandparents what TikTok is, while they're still figuring out how to use Facebook. Scientific misconceptions, a cosmic comedy. Let's pivot for a moment to some of the scientific misconceptions that have persisted over time. A lot of people mistakenly believe that ancient astronomers were simply guessing in the dark without any real understanding of what they were doing. The truth is, they were remarkably astute observers of the heavens, noted the movements of celestial bodies, and created complex calendars, often based on meticulous observations that would make modern scientists nod in respect. Now let's throw a little humor into the mix. Imagine an ancient astronomer squinting at the stars, armed with only his keen observations, and maybe a piece of chalk to keep track of his findings. Meanwhile, we have scientists today who can send satellites into orbit, but still struggle to get a decent Wi-Fi connection in the middle of a hike. It's a cosmic comedy of errors. The irony of progress. On that note, let's talk about the irony of progress. While we revel in the technological advancements of the 21st century, we often overlook how much we've lost in terms of intimate knowledge of the universe. Ancient cultures had stories for every star in the sky, and they pass these down through generations. Today, most of us can't even name the planets without a quick Google search. We might be able to send rovers to Mars, but can you imagine trying to explain to one of these ancient astronomers that we've been to another planet and returned, only to forget what the night sky looked like? The cycle of knowledge. So, what does this all mean for us today? It's a reminder that the pursuit of knowledge is a cycle, a cosmic dance, if you will. Just as Shiva embodies creation and destruction, our understanding of the universe reflects a continual evolution. We learn, we forget, and we relearn, often in surprising and absurd ways. Moreover, the connections between ancient practices and modern science emphasize the importance of cultural continuity. By exploring these historical practices, we can better appreciate our place in the universe and the shared experiences that bind humanity together across time and space. We might not all be dancing like Shiva, but we're certainly all spinning on this giant cosmic wheel together, bridging past and present. Now that we've meandered through the cosmic lens of the Astronomical Shiva Hypothesis, let's take a moment to reflect on how these ideas resonate with our modern lives. The notion that ancient cultures linked celestial phenomena with their spiritual practices reflects a fundamental human desire to connect with something greater than oneself. Whether it's through religion, science, or the simple act of gazing at the stars, we all seek that connection. This desire manifests in various ways today, be it through meditation retreats, scientific research, or even just a quiet moment spent looking up at the night sky. The cycle continues as we strive to find our place in this vast, mysterious universe, much like our ancestors did millennia ago. Conclusion? But hold your horses. This is not the end. We still have many more layers to peel back in this intricate onion of history and mythology. As we continue to explore the intersections of culture, science, and the human experience, remember that the stories we tell today are just as important as those told in the past. After all, much like Shiva's dance, our understanding of the universe is a performance that's still unfolding. So buckle up, because next time we'll dive deeper into the legacy of astronomical practices in different cultures and how they continue to influence our understanding of the cosmos today. Keep those comments coming. I can't wait to hear your thoughts. And don't forget to subscribe for more enlightening journeys through history and mythology. Until next time, keep looking to the stars. What's going on, everyone? Tonight, we're diving into the mind-bending world of the Astronomical Shiva Hypothesis. Now, if you're thinking this is just another explanation of that one guy from your yoga class who claims to channel the universe through sun salutations, think again. The reality is, the concept of Shiva isn't merely a spiritual or mythological notion. It's intricately tied to celestial events and astronomical phenomena. And believe it or not, a lot of this gets lost in the mystical smoke and mirrors of popular interpretations. Strip away the romanticized visions of blue-skinned deities dancing on the cosmic stage that movies and books have fed you. The reality was far more complex and challenging than most people realize, especially when you start to unravel how ancient civilizations viewed the cosmos and their place in it. But first, if you're enjoying these deep dives into history's darker truths, hit that like button and consider subscribing. Drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from and what drew you to this topic. I love hearing from you all. Alright, get settled in, maybe grab a drink, and let's uncover what life was truly like back then. The Astronomical Shiva Hypothesis is essentially the proposition that various aspects of Shiva, the destroyer, the cosmic dancer, the deity of transformation, can be reinterpreted or understood through the lens of astronomical events. It's not just about the mythology, but rather how ancient cultures used their observations of the heavens to shape their stories and philosophies. And boy, do we have some cosmic irony here. Take the dance of Shiva, for example. In the modern world, we often interpret it as a metaphor for life's cyclical nature, birth, death, and rebirth. But what if I told you this dance might have been inspired by the movements of celestial bodies? The stars, planets, and cosmic events were the ancient YouTube of their time. People looked up, saw the patterns, and created narratives to explain it all. So, the next time you find yourself grooving to your favorite tune, remember that no one is truly unique. Shiva was the OG cosmic DJ, spinning tales of the universe long before disco balls were even a twinkle in humanity's eye. Now, let's talk about cultural practices. In ancient India, the reverence for celestial bodies was deeply woven into the fabric of society. Astrology wasn't just a fun way to pass the time. It was considered an integral part of decision-making. Farmers checked the positions of stars and planets to determine the best times to plant crops. If they were anything like modern farmers, they probably had a few grumpy days when the weather didn't cooperate, despite the stars aligning perfectly. Thanks, Saturn, for that unexpected hailstorm. This brings us to an interesting paradox. While ancient civilizations seemed to have a more profound connection to the universe, they also had a lot of misconceptions. For example, they believed that eclipses were omens that could foreshadow everything from famine to the sudden disappearance of your neighbor's goat. Imagine living in a society where a solar eclipse meant you had to sacrifice a goat because your buddy from down the street misread the celestial signs. Speaking of misunderstandings, let's dive into the historical misconceptions surrounding astronomical phenomena. Ever heard of the Dark Ages? That term often paints a picture of a time when humanity collectively decided to put its brain in neutral. However, thanks to Arabic scholars who preserved and built upon ancient Greek astronomy, we actually learned quite a bit during this period. They were the ones who named stars and catalogued constellations. So, if you ever feel like you're not getting credit for your hard work, just remember, sometimes the stars are named after the last person to scribble the notes. The irony here? While we often think of ourselves as more enlightened, our understanding of the cosmos is still riddled with misconceptions. We're constantly updating our knowledge based on new discoveries, proving that the more we know, the more we realize we don't know. Kind of like trying to figure out how to assemble IKEA furniture. You think you've got it figured out, but there's always that one leftover piece that leaves you scratching your head. Now, let's explore the human nature element across time. One fascinating aspect of the astronomical Shiva hypothesis is how ancient peoples viewed their existence in relation to the cosmos. They didn't see themselves as separate from the universe. They were a part of a grand, cosmic narrative. They knew that the stars were not just pretty lights in the sky. They were storytellers, offering insights into the human experience. Imagine being a farmer in ancient India, looking up at the stars and feeling a kinship with the universe. That sense of connection might sound dreamy, but it's a touchstone that humanity has long sought. Today, we have telescopes and satellites, but do we still feel that magic? Or have we turned the cosmos into a cold dataset? Funny enough, while we might think we've outgrown such superstitions, many people still check their horoscopes before making big decisions. So, in a way, we're still dancing to the same celestial tunes, just with more tech and fewer goat sacrifices. Let's not forget the connections between past and present. The practices of ancient civilizations often echo in contemporary life. Take yoga, for instance. The asanas you perform today are not just for flexibility and relaxation. They're steeped in thousands of years of philosophical thought and cosmic reflection. Each pose has a meaning, often linked to celestial bodies or deities, Shiva being a prime example. Your downward dog might be a modern-day homage to the great cosmic dance. And now, a little absurdity for you. While we try to emulate ancient practices, we've added our own spin. Have you ever noticed how yoga studios often smell like a new age perfume counter exploded? Somewhere between chanting Om and striking a pose. We seem to have picked up the idea that incense and essential oils are now mandatory for spiritual enlightenment. It's almost like the ancient yogis are looking down and saying, seriously, we just needed some good vibes and a mat. Speaking of absurdities, let's take a moment to ponder how the ancients viewed time itself. In many cultures, time was cyclical rather than linear, meaning the end wasn't necessarily a conclusion, but a new beginning. This perspective aligns beautifully with Shiva, who embodies destruction and creation. It's fascinating when you think about it. While we stress out over timelines and deadlines, the ancients were on a perpetual loop, like the universe's most cosmic merry-go-round. But as we laugh at our modern-day rush, we must acknowledge human nature hasn't changed all that much. We still fear the unknown, still yearn for connection, and still try to find meaning in the chaos of existence. The ancient practices, whether they involved looking at the stars or dancing like Shiva, were ways to cope with that fear and find community. Doesn't matter if you're wearing a loincloth or yoga pants, the struggle to understand our place in the cosmos remains timeless. Now let's add a sprinkle of science, shall we? Like a cosmic cherry on our historical sundae. The notion of cosmic dance, as represented by Shiva, can be mirrored in real scientific phenomena. For instance, the concept of black holes, where time and space warp into an unimaginable dance of gravity, echoes Shiva's dance of destruction and renewal. It's almost poetic, isn't it? The universe, in its infinite wisdom, reminds us that everything is interconnected, even if we can't always see the threads that weave it together. Of course, back in the day, if you suggested that stars could collapse into black holes, people would likely assume you were talking about a particularly bad dinner party. You mean like all the food just disappears? Sounds like my in-laws. The irony of modern scientific discoveries making ancient myths feel oddly prophetic isn't lost on me. But let's not forget the modern interpretations of these ancient concepts. The Astronomical Shiva Hypothesis invites us to reconsider how we view our relationship with the universe. In this age of information overload, it's easy to overlook the wisdom of the ancients, who understood that we are but tiny specks in a grand cosmos. Their stories, rich with symbolism and cosmic references, remind us to look beyond ourselves, to appreciate the connections that bind us to the stars. If there's one thing we can learn from the ancient perspective, it's that embracing the unknown can lead to enlightenment. Whether you're staring up at the night sky, lost in thought, or dancing around your living room like Shiva, there's beauty in acknowledging that life is a beautiful, chaotic dance of creation and destruction. So, let's take a moment to breathe it all in. The cultural practices, the misconceptions, and the cosmic connections, they all illustrate a fundamental truth about being human. We seek meaning, connection, and a little bit of joy in this vast universe. As we wrap up this journey through the Astronomical Shiva Hypothesis, I invite you to reflect on your own relationship with the cosmos. Are you dancing to the rhythm of the universe, or are you stuck in the mundane loop of everyday life? Remember, existence can be as enchanting as the tales of Shiva if we allow ourselves to embrace the dance. As we continue this exploration of history and mythology, stay tuned for the next chapter, where we'll unravel even more cosmic mysteries and historical oddities that challenge our perceptions of time, space, and what it means to be human. Until then, keep looking up. The universe is waiting to share its secrets with you. What's going on, everyone? Tonight, we're diving into the Astronomical Shiva Hypothesis, a concept that intertwines the celestial with the mythical in ways that will make you rethink everything you thought you knew about ancient cultures and their understanding of the universe. Indeed, while many of us picture ancient civilizations as scratching their heads at the stars, the reality is they were more astute cosmic observers than you might think. Instead of huddling around bonfires and staring blankly at the sky, they were calculating astronomical phenomena with remarkable accuracy. Strip away the notion of primitive societies stumbling through life in ignorance, and you'll find a rich tapestry of knowledge and insight that suggests they were far more sophisticated than the stereotype allows. But first, if you're enjoying these deep dives into history's darker truths, hit that like button and consider subscribing. Drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from and what drew you to this topic. I love hearing from you all. Alright, get settled in, maybe grab a drink, and let's uncover what life was truly like back then. So, let's start unraveling this cosmic conundrum. The Astronomical Shiva Hypothesis posits an intriguing connection between the Hindu god Shiva and various celestial phenomena. Now, if you're imagining Shiva merely as a cosmic dancer with a few extra arms, you might be surprised to discover that he embodies a range of cosmic principles, including creation, destruction, and regeneration. This triadic nature is not just an artistic flourish. It hints at deeper astronomical principles that ancient cultures understood. For instance, did you know that many ancient civilizations connected significant celestial events like eclipses and solstices with their deities? The Greeks had their Apollo, the Egyptians revered Ra, and yes, ancient Indians had Shiva, who presided over the cosmic dance of creation and destruction. It's almost like they had the world's first astrology club, but instead of crystal balls, they were using constellations to make sense of their lives. The irony? While we often think of ancient people as being superstitious and irrational, their meticulous observations of the heavens sometimes surpassed our own. Take the concept of the yuga, or cosmic cycles, in Hindu cosmology. They described epochs of creation and destruction well before the term cosmic cycle entered the scientific lexicon. It's a bit like realizing that while we're busy scrolling through our social media feeds, they were mapping out the very fabric of time. Now, let's pivot a bit and examine some misconceptions about ancient science and spirituality. Many modern scholars have dismissed the spiritual practices of ancient cultures as mere fables or philosophical musings, failing to recognize the astronomical knowledge embedded within them. The idea that a deity could represent something as complex as cosmic order is often brushed off as primitive superstition. But consider this: who's the true primitive? The people who recognized and revered the cosmos, or the modern skeptic who can barely tell a star from a satellite? If you think about it, there's a certain absurdity in our modern detachment from nature. We spend countless hours indoors, glued to screens, while ancient people spent their nights under a vast, twinkling sky, creating stories and myths to explain what they saw. It's almost as if they were crafting the universe's own soap opera, complete with drama, love, and a few cosmic explosions for good measure. Now, back to Shiva. His dance, the Tandava, is often depicted as a whirlwind of activity. But from a cosmic standpoint, you can view it as a metaphor for the celestial movements, the dance of the stars, planets, and galaxies. Each twirl and leap mirrors the celestial bodies in their orbits, a reminder that everything is interconnected in this grand cosmic ballet. In a way, Shiva might just be the universe's original choreographer, and we're still trying to catch up with the rhythm. Speaking of cosmic connections, let's delve into cultural practices and social aspects surrounding celestial events. Have you ever noticed how many ancient ceremonies were timed with astronomical events? The Mayans built their pyramids to align precisely with solstices and equinoxes. Egyptians aligned the Great Pyramid with the stars, while ancient Chinese emperors performed rituals during eclipses to appease celestial powers. It's like they had the ultimate cosmic calendar, guiding their social and political actions according to the universe's whims. Contrast this with our society today, where we often schedule meetings and deadlines without a second thought to the stars. Imagine if your boss scheduled a quarterly review during a meteor shower. Talk about bad timing. Yet in ancient cultures, such celestial events dictated everything from agricultural cycles to royal ceremonies. If a harvest was approaching, but an eclipse was looming, you can bet the local farmers were sweating bullets. And here's where the dark humor creeps in. We joke about how people today are glued to their devices. But at least our screens don't require us to sacrifice a goat when the Wi-Fi goes out. Ancient peoples had to get creative. If a bad harvest was blamed on the gods, it's a fair bet their next family dinner was probably a little too quiet, considering who might end up on the altar. It's a stark reminder that despite the progress we've made, the human condition has always been about grappling with the unknown, whether it's an eclipse or a bad internet connection. Now let's pivot to human nature across time. How we've remained fundamentally the same despite the vast changes in technology and social structure. The struggle for meaning, the pursuit of knowledge, and the fear of the unknown are timeless elements that connect us to our ancestors. Whether they were staring in awe at a solar eclipse or calculating the best time to plant their crops, the emotions behind those actions resonate with us today. Consider how we all still seek signs in our lives. Whether it's reading horoscopes or seeking guidance from the universe during significant moments, humans have always craved that celestial connection. Something about looking to the stars makes us feel a little less alone in this wild, chaotic universe. After all, who hasn't had one of those days where you just looked up and thought, well, if the cosmos has a plan for me, it better start working on it soon. Let's not forget the interesting ironies and absurdities that crop up when we examine these ancient beliefs with our modern eyes. For instance, many of us chuckle at the idea of ancient peoples believing in divine influences over their lives, especially when we have science to explain things like weather patterns or solar cycles. However, science is often just a more sophisticated way of adding layers to our understanding of the universe. Layers that somehow still leave us with more questions than answers. In fact, the more we learn, the more we realize how little we actually know. Take black holes, for instance, a concept that seems to belong to the realm of science fiction. Yet, here we are, grappling with gravitational anomalies that would have made ancient astronomers scratch their heads in awe, or perhaps tremble in fear. And speaking of fear, let's talk about the human condition during celestial events like eclipses. These moments were often seen as bad omens, a cosmic wake-up call that the gods were upset. Imagine a time when your only source of guidance was the celestial clock above your head, and suddenly the sun goes dark. Panic mode would likely kick in for even the most stoic of ancient priests. Fast forward to today, and while we may not believe an eclipse is a sign of impending doom, how many of us still feel a twinge of anxiety when the skies darken unexpectedly? It seems we've traded one set of fears for another, but the fundamental human experience remains the same. Perhaps that's why the stories of gods like Shiva continue to resonate. They remind us that life is a chaotic dance, filled with uncertainty, creation, and destruction. As we explore this connection between the past and present, we can see how ancient myths have shaped modern narratives. Take the concept of the cosmic dance, for example. It's not just a poetic image. It has practical implications in the fields of physics and cosmology. Quantum physics, with its strange and often baffling phenomena, echoes the cyclical nature of existence that Shiva embodies. The universe is indeed a chaotic dance, and we're all just trying to find our rhythm. So, as we continue to dive into this fascinating intersection of history, mythology, and science, let's not forget to chuckle at the absurdities along the way. Whether we're trying to make sense of the universe or just figuring out how to keep our plants alive, the journey is filled with unexpected twists and turns. In the end, the astronomical Shiva hypothesis isn't just about linking a deity to celestial phenomena. It's also about recognizing the human desire to find meaning in the chaos of existence. It's about understanding that no matter how advanced we become, we're still just stargazers trying to make sense of the universe. And perhaps, just maybe, the universe is laughing right along with us as we fumble our way through this cosmic dance. Alright folks, as we continue to explore more intriguing aspects of this hypothesis, let's keep our minds open and our humor intact. The cosmos has a way of surprising us, and who knows what revelations lie ahead. Stay tuned for the next part of this journey as we peel back yet another layer of our shared human experience. As we navigate the cosmos of the astronomical Shiva hypothesis, we find ourselves at a crossroads of ancient mythology and contemporary science, each illuminating the other in unexpected ways. You see, the idea that Shiva, the Hindu deity known for his cosmic dance and creation, destruction, and renewal, could somehow be linked to astronomical phenomena is a tantalizing notion that has inspired both awe and skepticism. Think about it. How often do we dismiss ancient myths as mere stories, only to find science catching up and validating certain aspects? It's a delightful irony where the old meets the new, and the lines between myth and reality blur like a watercolor painting left out in the rain. Now, before we dive back into the depths of this cosmic ocean, let's consider a few modern connections to this ancient narrative. When Shiva dances, he sets the universe into motion, much like how the Big Bang Theory posits the creation of our universe. The idea that this cosmic dance could be interpreted as a metaphor for the dynamic nature of the cosmos is not too far-fetched. In a way, you could argue that ancient peoples were using the best tools they had, metaphor and mythology, to explain the mysteries of the universe. It's like trying to describe the internet to someone from the 1800s. They would probably think you were speaking in riddles or conjuring up some sorcery. Now, let's pivot slightly and look at some cosmic ironies that emerge from this hypothesis. For instance, while modern astronomers hail telescopes and satellites as key to unraveling celestial mysteries, the ancients had their own methods. They gazed up at the stars and connected them to their deities, developing a rich tapestry of stories that explained natural phenomena. Funny enough, in our high-tech world, many people are still searching for meaning in the universe, often using the same myths to guide their understanding. It turns out that as we've advanced technologically, our desire for narrative and connection hasn't changed one bit. We've merely switched from mythological narratives to scientific ones, yet the essence remains the same. We crave stories that help us make sense of the chaos around us. Speaking of chaos, have you ever thought about the symbolism surrounding Shiva's third eye? This eye is often depicted as a source of immense power and insight, representing the ability to perceive beyond ordinary reality. In our current era of information overload, where every day is a new avalanche of data, one might wish for a third eye of their own. Imagine being able to cut through the noise and see the truths hidden beneath layers of misinformation, social media drama, and cat videos. Perhaps in our quest for knowledge, we should channel our inner Shiva, striving for that deeper understanding, while also remembering to laugh at the absurdity of it all. And let's not overlook the fact that the universe, for all its complexities, is still a playground of chaos. Take the cosmic dance of Shiva as a metaphor. Life is, after all, a mix of creation and destruction, joy and suffering. In this dance, we see reflections of our own lives. Just as Shiva embodies the cycle of existence, we too experience constant change, often finding ourselves in phases of building up and tearing down. Whether it's in our careers, relationships, or even our personal beliefs, we often find that what we thought was solid can be swept away in the cosmic winds of change. The universe is not just out there, it is within us, echoing our struggles and triumphs, demanding that we find balance amidst the chaos. As we inch closer to wrapping up our exploration, let's take a moment to reflect on something that connects us all: the human experience. From ancient times to the present, humans have sought to understand their place in the universe, often finding solace in the stories they tell themselves. The Astronomical Shiva Hypothesis is a prime example of how mythology and science can coexist, each enriching the other. It reminds us that at our core, we are storytellers, trying to make sense of the world. And in a world that feels increasingly disconnected, perhaps we do well to remember the power of narratives, both ancient and modern, to bridge our understanding. But let's not get too serious here. After all, the universe has a sense of humor, doesn't it? Just look at the fact that while many people obsess over the potential of extraterrestrial life, we've already been inundated with a plethora of fictional aliens in pop culture. It's almost as if we're preparing ourselves for a cosmic meet and greet, armed with nothing but our sci-fi knowledge and a healthy dose of skepticism. The irony is palpable. We've gone from worshipping celestial beings to questioning if they exist at all, while simultaneously binge-watching shows about intergalactic adventures. It's a delightful contradiction that speaks to the complex nature of human curiosity. As we draw our cosmic journey to a close, let's circle back to a crucial takeaway: the importance of balance. Just as Shiva navigates the dualities of creation and destruction, so should we strive for equilibrium in our lives. The modern world is often frantic, filled with distractions that pull us away from deeper understanding. Life is chaotic, unpredictable, and often downright ridiculous. However, it is also beautiful, full of potential and wonder. We may not have all the answers, but through exploration, whether it's through ancient texts, modern science, or even a good old-fashioned conversation, we can continue to peel back the layers of our shared existence. Next time you gaze at the stars, or find yourself lost in thought about the mysteries of the universe, remember that you are part of a grand narrative that stretches back millennia. Approach it with a sense of humor, a dash of skepticism, and a willingness to keep asking questions. Whether you see Shiva's dance in the twinkling of the stars, or simply in the rhythms of your own life, let that connection guide you. The cosmos is vast, but within it, we find reflections of ourselves, our dreams, our fears, and our insatiable curiosity. And so, as we close this chapter of exploration, I urge you to keep dancing through life's uncertainties. After all, isn't that what we're all doing in our own way? From the cosmic to the personal, we are all part of a larger story, a dance between chaos and order, where every step, no matter how clumsy, counts. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the stars and stories.